Good afternoon. My name is Derek Olson. I'm the field manager of the Connection Business Development Team. Our BDM teams live in local territories and support our inside account managers. We work closely with our customers to bring solutions to help solve business challenges and drive positive outcomes. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm a proud Vikings fan. I'm both honored and excited to be here today, partnered with Microsoft Surface, the NFL, and the Minnesota Vikings. Today is going to be a great event. I'd personally like to thank all of our customers and employees for attending here today. We wish we could be doing this in person and maybe even at US Bank Stadium. Today, you're going to hear some great stories and strategies on how Surface is helping the NFL and specifically the Vikings connect its coaches, players, and referees and fans in a new and inspiring way. After the event, Connection will be hosting Closing with Connection. This is an interactive Microsoft Teams meeting focusing on the Connection Microsoft Center of Excellence and how we partner and help customers like you with Microsoft Surface deployments. And as a bonus for you, we'll be raffling off some great Vikings and Microsoft prizes if you attend. We look forward to seeing you then. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce our first guest, Ryan Asdorian. He is the U.S. Surface commercial lead at Microsoft. Ryan has worked for 15 years with Microsoft as an engineer, marketer, and evangelist. Ryan has represented shareholder meetings and other high-profile events. Ryan was once a technical business manager for Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella. And in fact, he was also the Seattle Seahawks mascot for several years. Wow, talk about a blend of tech brilliance and enthusiasm. Ryan, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, awesome. Hey, thanks so much. And thank you to Connection for having us here, for hosting this event, and for letting us talk to you a little bit about Surface. I love the fact that we get to bring in how the NFL is also using Surface. And as Derek mentioned, I've got a little bit of my own passion, with the Seahawks and history with them, as well as kind of what I've done at Microsoft. I just wanted to share a little bit just to kick us off on how we're thinking about this, how we're here to kind of help your companies. I'm coming to you here live from where I spend most of my working days, which is, both my office, it's my kids' room, it's my gym, and it's pretty much our storage facility for everything. And so everyone's home office and remote working scenario looks completely different. We know that. And it's really something that all of us have had to learn to embrace really quickly, even if it wasn't something that was super comfortable. So, I think what we're going to learn today from the NFL, but also what you are going to learn from all of the different customers as we kind of get more and more interactions between companies, is how everyone's adjusting to it in real time and in real life. I always kind of have my real life background up because it's representative of what so many people are going through. Whether you've got, kids that are remote schooling, that are, at school, no matter what your situation is, we're all learning new skills to really adapt. And I think one of the things that has been a principle for us on Surface is making sure that we meet people where they are, and we make sure that configuration, setup, use, it's simple. We often talk about the idea of software feeling like magic and, making that technology invisible so that even though today, as you see the panel, as you think about all the interactions with your coworkers, we want to make that feel as fluid and, just as seamless as possible, and kind of remove the technology so that it can come across as we're still able to collaborate, we're still able to be productive, and we're still able to do all the things that we need to do to, get on with our days, our work, our lives, and all of that. And so as you think about all of the different products, which we're not going to dive into today, but all of the things that are really bringing the Surface portfolio to life, we started with a simple 2-in-1 device, and we've expanded that. I've got a Surface Hub behind me that we use for all sorts of conferencing systems. And, we've released some new things recently that allow us to have those in people's homes, to, of course, the brand new Surface Duo, that we just released. I've been using this and absolutely loving it. So it's really about all of the form factors, from small to our PCs to our hub, making sure that people have all of the things that they need at their fingertips to make them feel as productive as possible. And that's really the mission that we are looking to empower. I am really excited, as I said, with what we are continuing to do with the NFL. Hopefully you had a chance to catch the latest TV spot that we just put out there that shows a little bit about how NFL teams are actually doing rookie initiation and seeing different ways that people are being creative and using Surface products to bring those to life. So I'm going to go ahead and hand over to our panel, but let me just first say a final thank you again to Derek and the entire Connection team. The way that they are bringing the remote solutions to life is second to none. And part of what we are really thinking about is how do we make sure every employee can be empowered with the devices that just allow them to do their best work. Some of the stuff that Connection is helping us bring to life is making sure that even as your employees are in their homes, they can get a device delivered, they can use technologies like Autopilot to get up and going, username, password, phone authentication, and the entire, the cloud brings down everything that they need. That is powered by what Connection is doing to help our customers really bring this to life. So make sure, reach out to us, reach out to me, to Derek, anything that you need to make sure you guys can be successful. But a huge thank you to Connection for hosting us as well. I'm so excited to introduce Ryan Harris, Paul Nelson, and Luke Burson, who are going to take you through how they are using some of this technology and really lighting it up. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to the panel, and thank you once again for being with us here today.
Well, hello, everyone. I am Ryan Harris, champion of Super Bowl 50, 10-year NFL veteran, and St. Paul, Minnesota native. And I can tell you, as a Pittsburgh Steeler, we got said the same thing every morning. First rule in getting better is showing up, and each of you are showing up today. And congratulations for tuning into this exclusive virtual event with Microsoft Surface and Connection. As a player, I know that players are the #1 fan of Microsoft Surface. I was there for the initial introduction, which we'll get to later, but I'll also never forget seeing the Microsoft Surface in my teammate Aqib Talib's hand as we won the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 50, and he wrote on it, "World Champions," a moment that will be written in my mind forever. So for the next 35 minutes, we are going to dive deeper into how Microsoft Surface technology is empowering the NFL both on and off the field. There will also be some time for Q&A at the end, so make sure to type in your questions as we go along in the chat box so we can get to them later. Joining me on the screen here is Paul Nelson and Luke Burson from the Minnesota Vikings, my hometown team, the team that got me started loving football. These two work within the football information systems, have played an instrumental role in driving digital transformation across the Vikings operations through Microsoft technology, and at least one of them knows where to get the perfect Juicy Lucy in the Twin Cities. Boys, what do you say we get started?
All right, Matt, far it is. See you there.
Well, the start of the NFL season has been a bit different this year, to say the least. And we all know the game must go on. How has your team adapted operations during this time of social distancing?
Well, there's kind of a lot to unpack with that question. So really for us, it was a matter of taking what we did and letting people essentially do the same job outside of the office. So having access to all the different, files and things that they develop. I mean, you know what an NFL playbook looks like. So it's not a small document. Yeah, it's not a small document. It's not a small thing. But, letting our coaches be able to function and work just like they were sitting in the office. And that was really kind of the biggest thing. And to make it easy, and as Ryan mentioned, kind of have the technology melt into the background. So, coaches who maybe aren't super technologically savvy were able to successfully do their jobs.
Well, and I know coaches, they had to have been crazy about security. How'd you guys handle the security questions and also execution for the new products?
Yeah, so security was something that we always think about, and we always want to make sure that we're aware of. And so really, we've had, I guess that, in our situation, our college scouts travel all the time. And, I've been with the organization since 2002. And so really since that point in time when I came in, it's something that we've always thought about. So we have had people with experience using like virtual private connections and things like that. So really, for us, security was something that we had already put in the forefront. So when COVID hit and we had to like move out of the building, it wasn't really as big of a deal for us as maybe it was for some other teams.
Yeah, no doubt some security breaches tried to happen from New England. I mean, the Patriots. I mean, we won't get into that, not that we have any experience. Now, Luke, earlier the NFL hosted its first ever virtual draft. How'd that play out for the Minnesota Vikings?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Kind of looking back at the timeline, they kicked us out of the office on March 13th, and we actually the bigger part that nobody really talks about in a virtual draft is we still had all of our player meetings. We still needed to go through and figure out who we wanted to draft as a staff, and really that's usually about a month of time that we spend in the draft room watching tape, discussing players, really trying to weed out, who are the guys that we want to target in the draft. And so, those meetings we had scheduled to start on April 6th. And so Paul and I had about 3 weeks to try and figure out how to take this huge, this great brand new technology that we had in our new building with the big video wall and all this kind of stuff, and be able to cram it into a 8x8 office, for and whoever else, be in there. And so Paul can kind of speak to it a little bit more, but yeah, it was a huge undertaking. And I don't know if you guys, I actually took a picture that the Vikings ended up posting of Rick's actual virtual draft setup in his house that had we had six 4K monitors that we ended up kind of doing a miniature version of our draft wall that he could have personally there and be able to see, the same thing he was used to in the office, as well as I think we had 3 or 4 surfaces in there for all of his different meetings and kind of different calls that he had with his different groups, whether it's medical, the scouts, or trade, people trying to work out trades. So it's a lot of different moving pieces in that whole deal.
Now you mentioned that draft. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Okay. Yeah. So typically, like draft rooms, if you probably remember back in the day, magnetic cards, lots of magnets and things like that. When we moved into Twin Cities Orthopedic Performance Center, we built a digital draft wall system. And so kind of doing that work a couple of years ago made it surprisingly actually a lot easier for us to move everything out versus teams that are still on magnets had to figure out, how do we get these magnets? Nobody could be together. You've got a coaching staff of 20 coaches. Do I need to make 20 sets of magnets? I mean, how are we going to do this? And so for us, it was, well, we had already kind of done it. We just needed to shrink it from 40 feet wide down to a few feet.
Well, and I know coaches, no doubt, some of them asked, how do we make these magnets on the computer? Just great question from coaches, no doubt you got. But what went into, that's a big decision, though, that you guys made. Hey, I mean, everybody who's affiliated with the NFL knows coaches hate change, but you changed an entire major process for a team's success. How did you know a digital board and digital workings and the opportunities through Microsoft were there and would help your organization win? So
when we went to TCO, we made the decision to do a digital draft wall. So the advantages of it are tremendous. I mean, we looked at like how much time we spent printing out cards and putting them on the wall, and we had scouts that would literally sit for half of a day tearing apart cards, putting them in magnetic holders. We don't pay them to do that. We pay them to scout players, to find good offensive linemen like you, and things like that. And so it's, we weren't using them in a way that made sense and added value to the organization. So even though we spent, this was not really a financial decision to do this draft wall. I mean, it was a lot more expensive than the money that we would save, but it allowed us, even in the first year when we first did it, to watch more tape, to make better decisions. And that's the important part. That's really what we wanted. And so there was a lot of kind of, head scratching and some questions going on, but Rick was really on board. Rick Spielman, our general manager. And so, Rick is not the most technologically advanced guy in the world, but he knows that. And that's really important. And so he kind of gets out of our way. He just says, just make it work. He uses a couple adjectives in there that I can't say. But he he really wants us to be successful and to make things work. And he's always very supportive of what we do.
Well, it's not just the front office where Microsoft Surface has made a change. It's also for the players. You guys may or may not know this, but there was so much anger on the sidelines, usually even in winning a game back in 2007 and 8, because they had to wait for a printer to print out these pages so we could look at the individual plays. Well, all of a sudden, we had a Microsoft Surface tablet, and we could see these plays almost in real time immediately after we sat down, to where later in my career, some of us veterans say, hey, give us a minute to breathe before we look at this Microsoft Surface and fix the plays. You just expedited so much time for change. What's been the response you've heard from players and coaches as to how the Microsoft technology has helped them in games?
Well, I think the speed of access and the ability for coaches on the sidelines and coaches in the booth to see everything together and to be able to communicate and collaborate has been great. Now, a certain coach from an opposing team of yours in Denver may have a different opinion about how that works during the game. Maybe it was you that ran over there and kicked the power cord. I don't know. But yeah, for the most part, it's been really great. It's been I think the younger players especially are kind of growing up with technology in their hand. They're used to that. But you're right. I mean, there are always downsides. I mean, we play outside. We play in all kinds of weather. You know, it could snow, it could rain, it could be, really sunny, it could be cloudy. And so, Microsoft has done a lot to make sure that the Surface works well in all those different conditions. And, I think the coaches are really starting to adapt. Even kind of the old school guys that maybe, I just need, a pen and paper and I can do it, are really adapting. Luke, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, just kind of echoing that. It's just like any technology. The older guys are going to be a little slower to adapt, but when things work and it's like, it's simple, it's easy to use, it really makes those guys believers. And I think that we've slowly kind of, a lot of coaches have moved over to not looking for the, the printed paper stuff. So then there's extra features on there too, like zooming in, like a player can zoom in on an image and do some other things that, you can't do with a piece of paper. I guess you can hold it closer to your face, but I don't know if that really helps.
Yeah, you might not want it too, depending on the play. Now, have you guys, did you have an opportunity where a player said, hey, can I do this with the Surface tablet? And you were able to show them the capabilities? Whether watching film or otherwise?
A lot of our, our coaches, we work a lot more with like our coaches and scouts. And so a lot of times the things that they want to do or the things that they need, especially in scouting, with Surface, we've been able to do. I mean, we're going to get to it in a little bit, but being able to take video, put it in the cloud, and like today, as everyone had to leave the building, they're able to go to their homes and watch film and continue to get ready. I mean, we're still going to play a game as far as we know on Sunday. So we're having to do all our game preparation outside of our building, outside of our facility. And so having Surface and having a lot of the Microsoft technologies has really helped us out.
I cannot reiterate what Paul just said. To be able to have the knowledge that securely and as a team, you can prepare for a game without being in the facility as the Vikings are this week, that just might save the season. It's remarkable to be able to have that technology and the work you guys did to make sure it's as seamless as it could possibly be. And you touched on something there that I kind of want to talk more about. Everyone knows this year Microsoft expanded its technology partnership with the NFL and clubs to include Microsoft Teams to enhance communication and collaboration. I know Teams is and has been a vital tool for your organization. How has it helped your football operations team?
Well, it's been amazing for us. I mean, going back to the draft, how are we going to do meetings? We had weeks and weeks of meetings that we needed to accomplish. In comes Microsoft Teams, and we were able to set it up in such a way that we could watch film as a group, where we could, have like discussions, and we could do things literally just like we were sitting together. And in fact, it worked so well that we're probably going to, regardless of what happens with COVID and restrictions, we probably will actually eliminate some in-person meetings for preparation for the draft. So that's a big deal for us. I mean, there's a real cost savings there, but also, we had to do a virtual off season. So no in-person practices, no, walkthroughs, nothing like that. And so the coaches had to have a way to sit down with their players, with their position groups, go through the playbook, go through film, show them things. It's not as good as being here in person. Obviously, the coaches would love to get their hands on guys. Players, some players can watch film and get it. Some players can look at the play diagram and understand it, and other ones have to walk through it. And so, we're not able to do the walkthroughs, obviously virtually, but just the ability to really, have those meetings and get our playbook installed with new players. We obviously have a lot of new players this year. But for me, that was like really one of the biggest things with teams was just how easy it was to use and how people just really adapted to it very quickly.
And Luke, communication's huge in the NFL. It's a big buzzword. How did you see the Minnesota Vikings being able to communicate over teams?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of echoing what Paul said. Like everything's just so easy. A lot of our scouts are kind of older, and we have some consultants, that are nearing that 70 range, and we're able to get everybody under one platform and be able to communicate super easily. One of the kind of cool things that we were able to do with teams this year, which is selfishly was kind of nice for myself and Paul, was when we did the draft, we had somebody always calls the player to inform them that they're being drafted by the Vikings. And so we actually were able to use Teams to call that player, and we were able to record the call. But then because it's so easy to have everybody together, everybody got to hear the kid's reaction to being drafted. And so it was just such a kind of a cool thing for us to be able to hear live, to hear, people in the background going crazy, or, mom and dad crying and all that kind of stuff. So it was really kind of fun to be able to be part of that, even though normally I'm 4 feet away from the person making the call. It's just so fun to be able to hear the other side of the call instead of just them relaying to what they'd said. So that was kind of a really cool thing for us this year.
What great content too for later on. And talking about getting drafted, Luke, you're gonna make me cry thinking about when I got drafted sitting at St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, before we open it up to questions from the crowd, Paul, you got something codenamed Viper, which I like. It's the custom scouting platform you developed with Microsoft. Walk us through how you transformed the process of reviewing boxes of raw footage and DVDs to be more efficient for the Vikings.
Yeah, so first rule of software development is you have to come up with a cool name and a cool logo. So we did that. We blew our budget, but hey, we had a cool name. So people were intrigued. So when I started in 2002, we literally would get boxes of beta tapes, not VHS, but beta tapes. And we had to copy those tapes. We had to ship them to our scouts. Fast forward, we went to DVDs, and then eventually we started doing electronic files. But it always involved us copying a manual process, taking that and shipping it out to our scouts. So response time was slow. Scouts had to be prepared. They're traveling all the time. They travel about 180 days a year. So, we're having to ship it overnight to hotels and things like that. So it was really a kind of a poor system. So we just thought there'd be a better way. So had an idea of using this cloud thing called Azure. And was there a way that we could take all this film, and we're talking terabytes of film, and put it in the cloud and use, data to help people search exactly for what they want. So I went to the Microsoft Technology Center in Edina, and I said, I got this crazy idea. You guys want to take a stab at it with me? So I got a couple of developers in a back room, and in about a week, we came up with really just a rough working prototype. And then if we fast forward a few more years, we got Microsoft Consulting Services on board, and they helped us actually build the entire product. Luke can kind of give you some details about how that went.
Yeah, so I was kind of the day-to-day guy on that with working with Microsoft, and it was a great experience. Involved every day on decisions, helping kind of redirect on items to make sure it was the product that we wanted. But I mean, speaking kind of more about what it does. I mean, literally, a scout can go ahead and find every special teams play. That a guy that might be the 52nd man on a roster can, just really speeds up that search rather than have to go through all that tape trying to find, number 27, wherever he might be on the field. And so, Viper has just become this great tool for us to be able to just have all of our scouts all across the country, wherever they are, to be able to grab film for any team, any game, include, for the college guys, it's great. For, small schools, something pops up and you need a Mankato film, you can go ahead and just go and pull it up in the airport, and boom, right away, you're able to go and watch some small school video and find the next Adam Thielen.
How critical was it to have that support from other parts of Microsoft to create and actually execute your vision?
It was, I mean, really massive. It was something that we wanted to do. We knew it was important to do, but we really don't have the staff or the manpower to do it ourselves. And so, for Microsoft to come in, they sat down, we went through everything, and it's interesting because we're explaining kind of football terminology to non-football people, and how we want things to be and how we want people to be able to search. And they did a great job of really like asking the right questions and taking direction from us, and it was just really a fantastic experience, across the board.
All right, Luke, last question before we get to the Q&A. Whose idea was it for Viper, and what was the second closest name for the product?
I don't know who came up exactly with the Viper. I think, none of the other names were any good. I think the original name was like Sample Video Player. It was pretty awful.
Yeah.
Just the beta name for it?
Yeah.
Well, hey, I love the Viper. I love what you guys created. And I'm so glad that the Microsoft teams and different consultants could help you create something that helps not only coaches and an organization, but the impact you have on guys who are that 50-second man, who you changed their life immeasurably because you made their film easily accessible for scouts that made them a Minnesota Viking. So thank you for all that you do from the players on up. Really amazing work. And at this time, we're going to open the virtual floor to questions. During our discussion, we've already had some come through the team's chat window, so we'll start with those. And here's the first one. What has been the most challenging part of the transition from work to home for all of you personally? I'll let you guys start.
So for me, I think one of the hardest things is just being able to really to supervise and manage and kind of direct people, not having people present. It takes a little bit more time, and I have to be a little more thoughtful and make sure that everyone's got their needs being met. Kind of working around people's schedules and things like that. I'm lucky. I have one child. My daughter's older, graduated from high school, so she's kind of independent. But people with like smaller children, there's some, we have to make some accommodations for that. So that's really been for me the kind of the hardest part is just really trying to be more aware of people's needs and more aware of their time and making sure that they're getting supported the way they need to be.
Luke?
Yeah, for me, I think, just trying to think outside the box on problem solving, and trying to think of different ways on how to maybe say something to a scout that's struggling with something, and guys where you were able to just go walk into their office and fix their problem, being able to kind of walk them through step by step by step, left click, right click, really going down into the details, so then they know exactly what they need to do to be able to solve the problem, rather than just being able to go to their desk and quickly fix it. And so that's probably been the toughest thing for me, is just really thinking through what all the steps are for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sounds good. And for me, it's definitely just figuring out how I want to go back to the office. I mean, I know you guys, it's in between right now in Minnesota, but hey, it's kind of nice to be home, right? And you start to get some more efficiency created, and you get into a new routine. Well, eventually we'll be back. What do we want to bring with us that we learned in this work from home experience? That's one of the things that I consistently look at. Here's the second question, guys. Viper sounds cool. Not sure if you can share, but are you cooking up any other crazy ideas?
So we have a few more things on tap for Viper itself, and we have some data services that provide things like, hey, let's look at this player, this defensive end, and every time they were standing up, versus every time they were down with their hand in their dirt. Or, hey, this is the 6th offensive tackle. How many times does he come in and play as a tight end or as a fullback? And being able to go in and see exactly just those types of plays. We have some of that ability now, but really using like some of our analytics and things like that, being able to look at more specific things with film, I think will be a big change for us. What do you got, Luke?
Yeah, I think going even one step further is, one of the things that we are able to do is like telestration on the screen. But I think what we'd like to be able to do with the tracking that they do on NFL players now, and we're starting to see in the college side as well, is be able to, when you go and run that search for that 50-second guy, it goes ahead and it puts a circle on the screen, so you know exactly where he is, even on, and it just kind of pops it up, so you even know where it is to look. And there's not any data entry needed on our end. It's just using, the marks on the field and kind of the XY data of where that player might be. And then just, obviously just making things more efficient. One of the cool things about Viper that we didn't really talk about is the speed that we're able to get film to scouts. So on Sundays, our pro scouts are generally at our next opponent's stadium. And so we're able to get our game and our next opponent's game, usually within 2 hours of the completion of the game, up and ready for them to go ahead and view. And so just the speed, that we're able to get those guys video and able to start working is incredible with Viper.
Well, I hope those coaches are getting you guys a bunch of gifts and everything, because I'll tell you something, you're saving them thousands of hours of time trying to figure out where the players lined up. Hey, Paul, take it easy on the linemen with our hands down or hands up, all right? We're big guys. You don't need to be putting everything in there, all right? Stop. Just let me rest if I run play away, okay? I'm just showing pass. Give us a break here. But, I mean, that's such valuable information for in-game, the next game, or what a player is going to be able to do from college to the pros. I mean, that's just fascinating what you guys are expanding Viper to do. Really cool stuff. Here's the third question. Okay, they want me to flash Super Bowl ring. All right, there you go. There, over 200 diamonds, and the only Super Bowl ring with numbers on it. Because if you don't know, the number, Roman numeral number for 50 is an L, and we certainly weren't going to put that on our ring after beating the Carolina Panthers. And for you guys, you mentioned the playbook, draft day discussions. Cyber criminals are out there. What are you doing to ensure your data is safe?
So we have what we call kind of referred to as a business IT staff, and they pretty much handle our network security. They handle encryption and things like that. But even within, say, like Viper, for example, we're able to use Azure Active Directory to authenticate our users. We're able to do, very easily do encryption in the cloud, so the video files are actually encrypted, and really just kind of protect our data. A lot of the Microsoft tools, especially around Azure, are very simple to use and set up. But primarily, we just, we have a really great IT staff, and they kind of take care of a lot of that stuff for us as far as network security and things like that go.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of with security, there's also a piece that people don't like to talk about, which the three of us know very well. Some people lose their jobs before the start of the season or in the season in the NFL. How quickly can you, erase the information in case they wanted to pass it on or try and keep it for themselves?
So we do electronic playbooks. We use a different device by a different company for the playbooks, but we're able to actually remotely wipe all those. So, the days of the big 500-page three-ring binder sitting in the front seat of your car while you run into the convenience store and getting stolen, which has happened, are gone. And so if somebody steals that device, we're able to remotely wipe it. So as soon as they let us know that it's been taken, we're able to go in and, remove that information that's on there. So it's actually, ironically, a little bit more secure than on a piece of paper. I always joke, we have a company that does some work for us, and they were real hesitant to give us electronic files. They would always send us a three-ring binder. Like, it's more secure. And I said, well, it's really not, because the cleaning person can come into somebody's office, pull the three-ring binder off the shelf and make photocopies of it. We'll never know what happened. So as long as you take prudent steps to protect your data, you're going to be safe. But yes, it is a concern, and we're lucky to have a great IT staff to handle a lot of those concerns for us.
Well, and a lot of people don't know. I can tell you as a player, multiple teams I played on would send the newest coach to the team hotel after they left to try and see if they could scrape up any of those paper plays that Paul's talking about. So indeed, more secure. Fourth question for you guys, and the last question. Paul and Luke, if you were to choose one current Vikings player to add to your support team, who would it be and why?
Oh, boy.
I mean, Harrison Smith, he's a Notre Dame guy. I'm just saying, we're smart.
Yeah, I mean, Harrison would be a good choice. He's kind of a jack of all trades. He does a lot of things really well. He can cover, he can blitz, he plays the run well. I mean, I think that's a solid choice. I might have to go with that. I'll steal your pick.
Luke?
I'll play to my crowd. I'm gonna go Brian O'Neill. Offensive lineman. I've been around him. Kind of being out at practice, and he's just he's a fun guy to be around, and seems like a good leader, and just I think he'd be a good add for us.
Smart player too, and offensive linemen, we're big on communication. We can do nothing by ourselves. So that's why we're great on NFL teams. Well, Paul and Luke, it's been amazing to talk to you today. So cool what you're working on, and so cool what you've created. Thank you from a former player for all your contributions, and thank you to Microsoft as well. And thanks to all of you who have joined us for this NFL panel. The event isn't quite over yet, though. We're going to close with closing with connections coming up. So click the link to join. It's just been posted on the Teams chat window. Simply click on it, and you will automatically be directed to the new meeting. A few reminders before you leave. For anyone who joined this event anonymously, make sure you've submitted your name in the Teams chat box to be entered into the raffle to win a pair of Surface earbuds or an autographed Vikings jersey. Winners will randomly be selected and announced during Closing with Connection, and you have to be there. Thank you again.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.